Welcome to SIIMcast, a podcast brought to you by the Society for Imaging Informatics and Medicine.
Greetings, SIIMcast listeners. Today we have a bit of a different episode for you. I've had the chance to sit down with a handful of scholarship winners from the 2025 year, and these are scholarship winners across initiatives like the NIC course, hackathon, etc. I've definitely found my time with these individuals, these bright individuals, to be quite inspiring. If this inspires you and you feel moved, please consider making a donation to SIIM to enable more of these scholarships in the future for more young informaticists to find the field. Go to SIIM.org and click the donate button, or just Google SIIMfund. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this. Okay, this is lovely to have you here, Arushi. If I could ask you, if you don't mind, to generally introduce yourself, tell us roughly where you were around the time that you got this scholarship from SIIM.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Mohammed. It's great to speak with y'all. My name is Arushi, and I'm a senior radiology resident, diagnostic radiology resident in Texas. And when I received the SIIM scholarship, I was actually a junior resident. And I feel like for this story to make sense, I have to give a little bit of background as to how this came about. In medical school, I did some research with artificial intelligence and radiology resident search pattern education. And, as that project finished up, it just, took a backseat in my career. I really wanted to focus on, becoming a good clinician. And at an academic radiology conference, I was in conversation with a colleague, and somehow this research I did came up, and he could see I had this interest in artificial intelligence and informatics. And he was the one who said, "Hey, you know what? You should try out this NIC course. I think it'll be great for you." And our institution actually offers this course to the senior residents, but he was like, as a junior resident, you should try to take it. And so I did. And it was just a wonderful experience kind of seeing the integration of informatics and clinical radiology. And so when they announced the scholarship, I was like, okay, yes, I have to do this, because when else will I get an opportunity to attend SIIM? The answer is never. So this scholarship really opened the door for me to do that.
Amazing. And if I could ask, you feel like you kind of answered it, but if the scholarship, it sounds like it made it possible for you to actually attend the meeting because the opportunity wasn't available otherwise.
That is correct. And to be clear, I had no idea SIIM even existed. I did not know there was this organization that brought together informaticists, pathologists, radiologists, radiology technologists, like everybody. And so this kind of just even introduced me to that organization. It made me realize that even though I'm not an informaticist by training, there is a role for me, even as a clinician, to be a part of this organization.
Amazing. So you made it to the SIIM annual meeting, and if I could get you to jog your memories here, do you feel like there was a moment that stood out to you, perhaps more than others? A conversation you had, a session you attended, something along those lines?
Yeah, and so, as I mentioned, I don't have an informatics background, so I was a little nervous going into this meeting, a little bit of imposter syndrome, what is my role here? But, being a part of the members and training committee and being part of that group and attending those sessions really eased that transition, because I came across so many other first-time attendees from all, different career backgrounds. So that was naturally an icebreaker. And then I also appreciated the sessions that were geared towards women in informatics, because that kind of created a safe space for me and also provided another opportunity for networking.
Nice. So being there in person, did you feel like it reinforced your belonging to or newfound belonging to the new imaging informatics community?
Absolutely. And as I've mentioned before, because it really made me realize that there is a role for, people who are more on the clinician side of things to kind of offer their perspective to the people like behind this new force of artificial intelligence and informatics. And it made me really excited because I got some tools that I could take back to my own residency program and just kind of get more people interested with this movement.
How would you say the scholarship has influenced you since then, both professionally and personally?
As I said, I think it's a great way for me to talk to like my own peers that this opportunity exists, because like me, I don't think a lot of people know that this organization exists. It's kind of a word of mouth thing at the moment. And so by showing them my own experiences, I have like some fun pictures from when I attended SIM. By talking about it, it's really gotten more of my co-residents interested. And so I consider that a huge accomplishment, just getting people on board.
Nice. And in your experience, why do programs like the SIM Scholarship matter for the future of the field, imaging informatics?
Mm. So SIM made me realize that this entire field is based on collaboration. And so for collaboration, you need people to buy in and you need the clinicians to come. And as I said, this scholarship provides means for that because, especially when you're in training, when time is hard to come by, funding is hard to come by, this can just give us that little extra boost to even make it out there to the conference. And, I'm lucky I come from a very supportive program, but the scholarship definitely incentivized and motivated the leadership to support me in attending this conference.
And with that being said, what would you say to someone who's considering supporting SIM's philanthropy efforts?
Well, I just hope, this brief conversation has helped the philanthropists realize that, there are people out there who just don't know enough about informatics and don't know that this organization exists. And that's the target audience. Those are the people you are reaching and who end up actually getting more involved than you think they would. Like I've actually joined like formally the members and training committee just because I had such an amazing experience and I'm trying to get more involved. And that just would not have been possible without this scholarship.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Arushi. I appreciate you being here with us today.
Thanks so much, Mohammed.
All right. I'm sitting here virtually with Amulia. Thank you so much for joining me again and for your time today. Can I ask you to introduce yourself and tell me, roughly speaking, what stage of your career were you at when you received the SIM scholarship?
I am actually a physician from India. I did my MBBS in India and came here for a master's in cell informatics at Indiana University. I was in the final semester of my master's program when I received the scholarship to attend SIM. And by the time I attended SIM, I graduated and I was exactly at a transition point in my career, just starting to get into workforce in imaging informatics field. Right now, I'm working as a research engineer at the Cleveland Clinic.
Lovely. Well, congratulations on that degree that you just earned one more time. What do you feel that the SIM scholarship did for you? What kind of doors did it open for you that perhaps otherwise were not possible?
It wouldn't have been possible for me to attend in person both the SIM and also the SIM ACR summit if not for the scholarship I received. I would have missed seeing how the projects have been doing or researching in academia translate operationally into the institutions. I've met a lot of people at the conference, which ignited many thoughts in my projects as well. It was really happy and or I would say I enjoyed the conference more than just being a scholarship awardee. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask you maybe a little bit of a hard question here. So you made it to the SIM conference. You mentioned also the ACR summit.
Mhm.
What would you feel was your favorite moment of the entire experience? Maybe a session you attended, a conversation you had, something along those lines. I know sometimes it's hard to distill it to one moment, but try.
Yeah, but I genuinely remember a few moments that stood out to me. The first one was listening to Wujin and Poch and speak at the keynote of ACR Summit. That was my first session I attended, and it was a fan moment for me. I've been following them a really long time on LinkedIn, but listening to them in person and all the analogies they used about explaining in AI in radiology, that was something I was really looking forward to attending SIM. Yeah, and also I did meet a few people from Cleveland Clinic. I mean, at that point, I was interviewing with different institutions from my full-time role. So talking to the people who actually work at the institutions have helped me realize how the culture, the community, and how everything at the institutions work. And when I joined Cleveland Clinic, it was relatively easier for me to reach out to people who already work here because I've already met them at SIM. And it felt really nice. Yeah.
That's amazing. I think you may have already answered my next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. By the way, I'm a fan of the people you named as well. And I also happen to know some of the Cleveland Clinic people who go to SIM, and they're just lovely, amazing people. So SIM is obviously very big on the creating a sense of belonging. I feel like you've already answered the question, but do you feel like you now belong in the imaging informatics community?
Yes, absolutely. So I've attended other conferences, but I felt SIM was different. It's a more tighter and connected community, I would say. Everyone knew everyone. It was surprising to see that how good it felt to talk to someone whom I didn't know before. Everyone was approachable and they were really genuinely interested in conversations. Be it Tessa, Bina, or Khan Siddiqui. Everyone I was a fan of, but I did not know them before. But they were really interested in easing it out for me, even though I was an early career professional. It was very easy to talk to them. It didn't seem like I was talking to someone so top in field or leaders in radiology, but it felt like I was just talking to a friend who was suggesting me something about how to go about it. Uh, yeah, and also for me, because of my background both in clinical training and AI or the health informatics, I was always confused about how my career trajectory would look like. But I know I've been following them on social media, but talking to them in person reinforced all my thoughts about it. Now I feel like I have real living examples of how my career would be from now, and it feels like I know them more personally, and that gives me a little bit more confidence and reassurance. I think it's the sense of togetherness and the shared growth that sim community has is more important than just the numbers that speak.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, obviously, I'm a sim oldie and slash groupie, but I agree. It's the community that we have that is exceptionally special. Everyone is so kind, approachable, easy to talk to, and just genuinely passionate about what they do more than anything else. So, with that being said, I think you also touched on a number of points here, but I want to hear your kind of explicit answer. How do you feel this experience and the connections you made, how do you feel they contributed to your advancing you in your path, both professionally but also personally?
Professionally, I would say my transition into a full-time job post-graduation was definitely easier after attending SIM because, like I mentioned, I have talked to a few people from Cleveland Clinic, and when I joined here, it felt like a more familiar space than just joining a really large unknown institution. Once I joined, I reached out to them, and they were all really helpful. It was nice to have someone before and yeah, it also gave me a confidence that my combined background was not only accepted but also valued immensely in this domain.
Lovely, lovely. So, what would you say to someone about why a program like the SIM Scholarship Program matters for the future of imaging informatics?
Uh, These programs matter because they support individuals like me who are really early in their career, trying to get into something new which they weren't aware before. Even I was at a point where I was thinking if I should shift my focus from radiology to general medicine or AI in general medicine because I was at a point just where I need to find a job, not without thinking about what it might be my future about. But seeing all the people the talks have attended made me think that even if it might slow down my career growth a bit, but I understood that eventually I'll make it. And it really reinforced the confidence and also a sense of belonging to the community. And I would not want to change my thoughts about AI in radiology or whatever I'm doing. I felt more confident and thought that, okay, at some point, there is something I can do about it. And probably this kind of support helps retain motivated and interdisciplinary talent and strengthens the long-term future of imaging informatics. This is what I think is needed right now. Um, After SIM, I really left with a more clearer direction to what to do. It's not about what I would want to do, but it's about how or whom I would want to reach out to get more clarity about what I'm doing. And that is what someone in an early career would need right now.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you for that answer. And my last question for you today, what would you say to someone who's considering supporting SIIM's philanthropy efforts?
I would say that it's not just the sponsoring a trip to a function. It helps for someone. It helps how they enter the field or how confident they feel about, and it's all about the connections they make at the conference. And it sometimes just give you a boost to your career, and I think that's really important in the social media life right now. The personal belongingness and how some conversations just sparkle a thought in you and you just try to do something. And sometimes when you feel uncertain about what you would do with these people whom you connected personally would unknowingly make you go with it. It's just one post from someone like Wujin would energize me on my really slow morning. And it's more personal now because I met him in person. So it really matters. And I think that would also impact how the future of imaging informatics be.
Absolutely lovely. Thank you so much for your time, Amoli. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me today and all your thoughtful answers. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here.
Yeah, likewise. It's very nice to just be part of SIM so far. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sitting here with Davina, and I already know Davina, but for our listeners, for the audience, could you please introduce yourself, but also tell everyone about where in your career you were at when you got the SIM scholarship?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm Davina Littell. I am a recent graduate from May 2025 from Marquette University with a degree in biomedical engineering. I received the SIM scholarship the winter right before I graduated. I think is when I officially heard that I was a SIM recipient. And so it was for the summer right after graduation. And I know personally, the job market was not looking very good. Everything was nobody was hiring. I was feeling very low about graduating at that specific time. And SIM has always been a very welcoming community for me. So I was really excited to kind of disappear from just all of the job search and what are you doing after graduation questions that come with graduating. And so I think it was a very big adjustment period in my life, at least personally. Wasn't really sure what I was doing, wasn't really sure what I was going to go. I had interest in law school. I had an interest in staying in technology. And I think actually about a few weeks before SIM, I heard about a job offer to teach artificial intelligence and computer applications at a correctional facility. So I went into SIM knowing that I would be teaching for a few months after the SIM conference. And yeah, that was kind of where I was.
Amazing. So you're not a stranger to the SIM community, but what do you feel that the scholarship did for you that otherwise was not going to be possible?
I think that I definitely had a different, I want to say more welcoming. I don't know if that's the most correct, but I feel like everyone in SIM knows Terry. So, and Terry was my introduction into SIM. She's the one who got me involved in SIM. She took me to my first conference. So I think in that aspect, I already had a very welcoming start. There were people who were already asking, oh, are you one of Terry's students? And very well connected right off the bat. But I think there's a level of, overwhelmingness that kind of comes that first year, especially with Terry students. Everyone's kind of asking you who you are, what you're doing. And, there's very high standards for Terry students in the best way. So a lot of people are reaching out and trying to converse with you, which is amazing. But I will say that those first 2 years that I went, the first year especially, I think I just didn't process everything. I definitely don't remember everyone I met. It was very overwhelming in the best way. A really great experience, but we were up really late all night doing hackathon stuff, and then the next morning you would be networking. So it's just a lot of brain fog post the conference. And the second year I was working full time, so I think I was actually only at the conference for like a day and a half. So I don't even know if everybody really knew I was around. And then last year was the scholarship, of course. And I think that with the scholarship, it came a different version of welcoming. You get a lot more involved in SIM, I want to say. You're not just meeting people, but you're actually kind of coordinating with people. And I don't know, I got to put a lot more names to faces. You get to really be more involved in the events. And I don't know how to describe in what way necessarily, but I definitely felt more integral in some of these events.
Amazing. So you've obviously attended more than one edition of the SIM conference, and I am asking this question to all the scholarship recipients, but in your case, I'm going to give you different rules to play with. So the question is, was there a moment at the meeting that stood out to you, a conversation, a session? But in your case, it could be any of the SIMs you've attended, not
Any of the
specifically the last one. So you can choose whatever you like.
I think actually, ironically, it would actually be this past sim where I did receive a scholarship. I think it was at the auction party that always happens every year. And I spoke to Cheryl, the CEO of SIM, and she knew who I was. I honestly had no idea who she was in that moment, though. Everyone kept coming up to me and they said, Cheryl wants to talk to you. Go find Cheryl. And I was like, who is Cheryl? And I was super confused. And then I went and I spoke to her, and she was just so delightful to speak to. And I think that that conversation we had, she knew a lot about me in my personal past, and she was very proud of where I'd gotten in my graduation, and that was very sweet to kind of hear from. That conversation is definitely a conversation I still think of very often, and I just think it's really cool as, like, a very young person in the field. The whole conversation with her was amazing. Yeah.
Cheryl is lovely. No surprise there.
Yes.
You talked about this moment with Cheryl, which actually always brings up a good point. I know SIM has this slogan of "You belong at SIM," and Cheryl is, of course, the shepherd of that
Yeah.
slogan. So, do you feel like you belong to the community?
Absolutely. I think, throughout college, I've been a member of the Society of Women Engineers, the Biomedical Engineering Society. Those are two also big major engineering societies, of course. And SIM isn't necessarily just engineering, but I kind of group them in the same area, I guess. And this is nothing bad about BMES or SWE, but I think that SIM does a fantastic job at making people feel included. I don't know if it's because we're younger or because we're affiliated with Terry, but I feel like I want to say no, because even the people that I've seen who are undergrads or grad students from other people being brought in, I mean, you just see SIM do a fantastic job at connecting people together and, getting people involved and greeting themselves. And you see people like Cheryl who are from like the, tippity top that a lot of other conferences you don't see them interacting with people just so casually. And that's really nice. Yeah, I think that's something that makes you feel very welcome at SIM. There's a lot of activities for you to do, from the hackathon to the sessions, to volunteering that you can get involved with. It's just across the grid, so many things you can get involved with. And that's coming from me. I'm not even technically in imaging, I'm engineering. I've been a very strong AI focus, and it's educated me a lot about imaging. It's made me a lot more interested in informatics and imaging and all of it in general. And, it's something that even if my career doesn't immediately place me in the imaging and informatics field, I could definitely see myself attending SIM and staying with my SIM connections throughout my whole career. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so how do you feel the scholarship in this case has influenced your path, both professionally and personally?
I think they go hand in hand, honestly. I think overall, they kind of took me out of Terry's bubble, I want to say. I love Terry. I appreciate everything for Terry, but I think every year, you know, there's the same people I meet, with Terry, and the same people I try to catch up with. And I think this past year with the scholarship, I met a lot of other people that are involved with SIM in the background, the setup, the organization, that I don't think I would have otherwise met unless I received the scholarship. So I think the networking was really strong. I think I met just a completely different variation of people that I wouldn't normally meet. And I think that's really helpful. Like, I know, I've talked to Tom O'Sullivan. He's talked about getting me more involved and volunteering or setting up stuff and being a little more integral into the SIM conference, especially. And I think those are all things that, I wouldn't have been able to connect with unless I got the SIM scholarship. I think it just put me on a different connection path. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I think that actually adds to the previous question of the sense of belonging to the community. So this is much more than just feeling like you belong. You're now beyond the part of the community, being involved in all
Exactly.
these things.
Yeah. And I love it. I think it's something that I definitely saw for myself being, more involved with SIM. I love planning things. I'm someone who I like happy levels of stress. So a little overcommitment is great for me. I've learned my threshold though over the years, but I love being involved and having a more bigger part in a lot of things. Yeah.
Awesome. Why do you think a program like the SIM Scholarship matters for the future of imaging informatics?
I think the largest part is that I think a lot of younger generations don't really know that this path exists. And I know Sam Marizic from Marquette, she's actually a prime example of someone who she has always talked about wanting to be in informatics and imaging in this career. She's also a biomedical engineering student at Marquette. And she never knew that, this group of people in this community existed, this organization. And I think that it's something that a lot of people search for, but I think that SIM is still a little small, so I think that these scholarships, it helps branch them out so that we can grow and so that we can make the society larger and get all those people that know they want to be in this field, but they're not really sure how to get there involved so that they can get there. And I think that's really huge. I think there's just so many students that, I TA'd at Marquette. So I think there's a lot of students that do want to do this field. They just they don't think that it exists necessarily because it's such a niche field. And that's unfortunate. So I think that, the scholarship really draws people in and it encourages people to not only learn more about it, but to network, potentially get a job, potentially get, internship experience, whatever it is. Right. So
Puts them on that path
yeah,
towards a future in imaging informatics.
exactly.
Nice. So what would you say to someone who is considering supporting SIM's philanthropy efforts?
100% do it. I think SIM is a little different. I volunteered at BMES. I have volunteered with SWE for their conference specifically. And I think that, again, this isn't me. I love BMES and I love SWE, but I think SIM's philanthropy is a little less corporate. I think is probably the best I could describe it. It's a little more genuine. You see a lot of the money going back exactly where they say it's going to. You see it going to, you can meet the students who are receiving the scholarship at the conference and at the organization's meeting. And I think that's huge. You can really see where your money is going to, and you can meet these students. And I've never met a student, like an undergrad or a grad at SIM, who is not phenomenal. They're some of the best people, the most hardworking. I think they're amazing examples of what you would want the future of imaging to look like. And I think that's really cool. So yeah, I think you get to see where your money goes. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Davina. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today and your very thoughtful answers. It's always great catching up with you.
You as well. Thank you.
Hi, Sim. My name is Anamul, and I'm a PhD candidate in biomedical informatics at the Department of DBMI at UMS. I work under Dr. Fred Pryor in an imaging informatics track. So my research focuses on trustworthy AI in medical imaging, especially lung cancer screening on CT and computational pathology, where I look different kinds of model, particularly foundation model and larger scale data set and clinically meaningful validation. So when I received SIM scholarship, I was at a very important transition point of my PhD. I had started producing first author work, building my own ideas, and later I realized that I was still in a phase where visibility, mentorship, community connections were absolutely critical for shaping my long-term career.
Wonderful. Thank you. So, when you received that scholarship, what do you feel the scholarship made available or possible for you that otherwise would not have happened?
Great question. A scholarship made it possible for me to attend SIIM in person, and I think that changed everything. Let me give you an example. As an international student, like a PhD candidate like me, travel funding is not always guaranteed. And without the scholarship, I very likely would not have been able to participate at that level. So that bring me allowed to multiple things. First of all, present and discuss my work with the leaders in the field, build collaborations across institutions, and connect with the mentors whose papers I had been reading for years.
Amazing. I love it. So, it sounds like you went to SIM and it sounds like you had a great time. I'm going to ask you a little bit of a hard question. Was there a moment that stood out to you? Maybe a session you attended, a conversation you had, or something along those lines?
This is the most important, I think, interesting question for me, I guess. I have multiple moments when I joined last year's SIIM in Portland, Oregon. So when I entered into the convention center, I think the convention center name is Portland Convention Center, right? So when I entered there, I see one of my mentor sitting there, and especially he was in my PhD dissertation committee. When I see him, I started to feel better, and I started to feel more better and more confident when I see on the following day he received a SIIM Fellow recognition from the SIIM. And another event that was very important in my career, that I had a discussion on of a researcher from Moffitt Cancer Center, and I had a discussion with him that's is there any way we can collaborate? And after the discussion, after a couple of months later, we met again, and we decided that we would like to implement a federated learning project on multiple institutions. So we are now 6 institutions, and we are implementing federated machine learning project for lung cancer screening. And that is happening. And that was the two events that gave me huge amount of confidence and motivation. And that becomes possible because of the same.
Amazing, amazing. By the way, I know the individuals you're talking about, and they're both lovely people. So I'm glad that you got that experience. I think my next question is slightly obvious at this point, but I'll ask it anyway because maybe you'll add a little bit more color. So obviously, it looks like you feel like you now belong to the community of imaging informatics. What do you feel that being there in person did to reinforce that, besides the stories you already told me?
As you know, that the imaging informatics is a very interdisciplinary field. So we come from medicine, engineering, computer science, data science, and the SIIM is one of the few places where all these identities come together. So as a trainee, you sometimes work isolation or highly technical problems, but at SIIM, I really felt these are my people, this is my community, and this is where my work has a home.
And since then, hopefully good things have happened in your life. Tell me what experience that experience had as an effect on your both personal and professional life.
As I mentioned to events, so on following that, since receiving the scholarship, I have led first authors work publications, and I would like to say proudly that my first author publications from my dissertation I put at JIM, Journal of Imaging Informatics in Medicine, and mentor junior students entering imaging AI, taken a larger collaborative projects, as I mentioned, that I'm involving with multiple projects right now, and stepped into visible roles in the research community. So this scholarship didn't just fund a trip, it accelerated my trajectory.
I love it. That's just music to my ears. Everything you've done is amazing. And I can already see that you're not just a part of the community, but I think you're working your way up very quickly to become a pillar of the community, because it sounds like you're already turning around and trying to bring more people into imaging informatics. And that actually really nicely leads to the next question. In your experience, what does a program like SIIM scholarships, why does it matter for the future of the imaging informatics?
This is a real serious question. These programs are essential because they bring new voices into the field, as you know. And imaging informatics needs diverse background, interdisciplinary thinkers, people who are close to the data and clinical problems. So scholarship remove the financial barrier, as you know, and replace it with opportunity. And that directly shapes the future of the leadership of our field. So I think this program is essential.
Wonderful. Last question, again, might be obvious at this point, but I'd still like to hear it from you. Someone who might be thinking about supporting SIIM's philanthropy efforts, what would be your message to them?
So the answer is like straightforward. You see, I'm a direct example of that impact of that support. So your contribution does not just help someone attend a conference. It helps launch his career, build collaborations, and accelerate innovation that ultimately improves patient care. So you are not just supporting a trainee, you are investing the future imaging informatics.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time with this. All right. I'm sitting here virtually with Raul, and thank you for giving me your time here today. I want to start by asking you to briefly introduce yourself. Tell us what stage of your career you were in when you received the SIIM scholarship.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Rahul Gorjavalu. I'm currently between my third and fourth year of medical school, where I'm also pursuing a master's degree in bioengineering, innovation, and design here at Johns Hopkins. And I received my SIIM scholarship during my third year. It's a pivotal time where I was actually actively exploring how to integrate my clinical training with my passion for informatics and technology. And so it was a very impactful moment when I received that scholarship.
Amazing. So when you received the SIIM scholarship, what kind of door did that open for you that you didn't feel otherwise would have been possible?
Yeah, and I think the scholarship actually opened doors that I didn't even know existed. I mean, I had the opportunity to connect with incredible mentors, both at my home institution and across the country through attendance at SIIM, which the scholarship permitted. And these are relationships that I'm genuinely grateful for. And perhaps most meaningfully, I was able to meet with other students who share my passion for informatics. In medical school, it's rare to find peers that are interested in this space. And so meeting fellow students who are just as enthusiastic was both validating and energizing.
Okay, I love it. This is awesome. So now I'm curious to hear, because you said you made all these connections and whatnot, and you've obviously made it to the annual meeting in 2025. You feel like there's a moment of time that really stood out to you, a specific session you attended, a conversation, something along those lines?
Yeah, and honestly, it's a tough question because it feels like every single encounter left a positive impression on me. And the community was incredibly warming. But if I had to choose one moment, it would be meeting with my hackathon mentor, Dr. Les Folio. And from our very first interaction, it felt like he took me under his wing. And what struck me most was his genuine curiosity about how he could support my professional growth. And that kind of mentorship, which was immediate, generous, and very invested, is something that I hadn't expected. And that's something that I will never forget as I continue to engage with.
Les is awesome. Everyone knows that. So I'm not surprised to hear that. I've had the good fortune of working with Les in the past. So he's pure awesome. So when you were there, obviously, SIIM has got a slogan of "You belong at SIIM." I'm curious, how much belonging did you feel? Do you feel like you're part of a community now?
Absolutely. For the first time, I felt like I had found my people. And virtual events are valuable, but they simply can't replicate the depth of connection that you get in person. So being there in person felt like I'd really found my community. At SIIM, I felt like I could approach anyone and ask questions and have real conversations. And what surprised me most was that everyone wasn't just willing to help, they genuinely wanted to get to know me as a person. And that sense of welcome made a ton of difference and really made me feel valued and appreciated and encouraged to continue pursuing what I'm pursuing.
Amazing. So what would you say? Obviously, you talked about the connections you've made and, friends and whatnot. That's great. How do you feel the scholarship and attending SIIM has influenced you both professionally and personally?
Yeah, it feels like the connections I made were one of the aspects of having a lasting impact. I've continued working with faculty at Hopkins who I met when I was at SIIM. Those collaborations have since shaped my research trajectory pretty significantly and allowed me to collaborate with new folks and understand and learn from a lot of new people, which I think is very valuable. And beyond the professional opportunities, the experience gave me confidence that there's a place for me in this field and a community that will support me as I grow. And that's something that is very important, especially being in medical school where feelings of like imposter syndrome appear very frequently. And I think having the sense of validation of what I'm doing is right was very, very appreciated.
I've been in the imaging informatics industry for about 15 years now, I'll tell you the imposter syndrome kind of remains there, but that's okay. It's a healthy thing. That a little bit of self-doubt is a healthy thing. It motivates you to move forward. So with that being said, they say hindsight is 2020. So what would you say that, why would programs like the SIM scholarship, why would that matter for the future of imaging informatics?
Yeah, I think this is a great question. I think that programs like this matter because they remove the barriers and they give students like me who might not otherwise have had the resources, the chance to attend these events and discover our communities. And so without the scholarship, I honestly don't know if I would have been able to travel across the country to be there. Coming from the East Coast, the conference is on the West Coast. It's a huge flight over and hotels and all of that. And I think that single opportunity to be there had shaped my career in ways that I'm still discovering. And if we want a diverse, innovative future for imaging informatics, we need to be able to invest in bringing new voices to the table and exciting our youth and the future generations of tomorrow to sit at the table.
Absolutely lovely. Thank you. So my last question for you now is, what would you say to someone who's thinking about supporting SIM's philanthropy efforts?
Yeah, I want to first start off by saying thank you and emphasizing that your support has a real, tangible impact. And you're not just funding conference attendance, you're actually funding the next generation of investment into future leaders in the field. I mean, you're helping students find their community, discover mentors, and build careers that they're truly, genuinely passionate about. And I'm living proof of that. And I want to express my most sincere gratitude for your consideration, because it truly makes a difference.
Thank you, Rahul. I appreciate your time.
SIIMcast has been brought to you by the Society of Imaging Informatics in Medicine. Please visit our website at SIIMfund.org for more information and educational content, including webinars and an archive of prior episodes. Please follow us on Twitter at SIIM_tweets. Thank you to our listeners for your continued support.